Something that only happens every 2.5 years is happening during this full moon. Hi, my name is Tamara Bartmus. I am an astrologer, energy worker, and natural wellness educator. And today I want to talk about the Aquarius full moon, also the blue moon of the season. A blue moon in this context means that it is an additional full moon during a particular season of the year. Traditionally, we only have about 3 full moons during a season, but this summer season, we have 4 full moons. What this presents is the opportunity for a lot of emotional growth and emotional development, especially in the areas that are impacted by the sun's movement and the moon's movement. The sun is moving through Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, and the moon moves through Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. To discover where this really impacts you in your birth chart, go and find where your Leo sign is on your birth chart, as well as where your Aquarius sign is. Those houses that those signs cusp will give you more information on what areas of your life are being impacted by this blue moon and what area of your life might need an emotional upgrade. The themes of an Aquarius full moon are often tied to one's ability to feel comfortable in their own skin, as well as to move beyond or improve on what we were originally, traditionally instructed in, and become more of ourselves in the process. With an Aquarius full moon, we are learning the lessons of self-acceptance, to become comfortable with who we are and expressing some of our vulnerability. Now, Aquarius is an air sign, tends to be sort of heady, where Leo is a fire sign, tends to be very heart-centered, and that can create natural conflict between the head and the heart and expose some of the things that we need to address. And this full moon presents that opportunity to see the head a little bit more clearly by opening the heart at the same time. A few of the points that I want to highlight during this video is, again, talk about this moon-sun opposition and discuss the conjunction that the sun has with Mercury, which is in retrograde, as well as touch on the fixed T-square and the yod that are showing up, as well as a small grand trine. All of these correlate with each other, which is going to make for a very exciting Aquarius full moon. Like we said, the heart and mind might be at odds with each other right now, with the sun in Leo and the moon in Aquarius. There are lots of planetary indications of how to manage this tension in the air or in our lives. But the good news is that there are indications of how we can manage this natural tension of the full moon and really use it to our full advantage. The first thing I want to highlight is this Mercury conjunct the sun in Leo. Now, Mercury has been in its retrograde process. The day before this full moon, Mercury will have just crossed over the sun, meaning that we are in the second half of Mercury retrograde, and the energy is more like a new moon energy for Mercury at a full moon point, creating its own contradiction. Mercury in Leo traditionally might be more expressive and more interactive with people around oneself, but because it's retrograde, it's going to be more of an internalized process. And so you might not feel the drive to be more communicative with other people, but more introspective and reviewing and assessing what's working for you or in your internal life. With it conjunct the sun, it does mean that this is a new rebirth of how you think, how you speak, and how you communicate. An integration of that in both a conscious and unconscious way because of this unique Mercury retrograde at its solar inferior conjunction at this point of the full moon. So make time for reviewing your thoughts, recording your thoughts, going more internally while you examine that, and give it a couple of weeks, because on August 28th, Mercury will station direct, make its way through Leo and into Virgo for another growth cycle. The other planetary aspect that I want to highlight because of Mercury's conjunction with the sun during this full moon is the sign of Gemini. Now, Mercury, when direct, has greater influence on Gemini. When in retrograde, it has greater influence on Venus. And so you might actually feel this Venus and Virgo influence on how you process the things that you value, what it is you want. Like, this might be a real self-correction in your values more than it is about gathering more information. With that being said, Mars and Gemini, both fire planets, being in this air sign might make you feel maybe a little more restless with your hands and your mind, maybe wanting to create something because of that Mercury influence. But regardless, it is a time for a lot of mental air energy as well as a lot of fire heart energy. One of the aspects that is impacting this full moon is the fixed T-square that is happening between the opposition of the sun and the moon and then apex of Uranus in Taurus. Uranus in Taurus is really helpful for tuning back into our instincts, for grounding, for getting in tune with nature. And it can also be expressed as a resistance, maybe a fighting of change, but knowing that change is necessary, especially in relation to what we value, how we use our resources, our money. And some of the ways we can know that we're not operating and utilizing this energy properly is by numbing ourselves with food, with physical comforts, anything to distract us from actually settling into and letting the earth and the natural energy support us through this transition process. The benefit of this Uranus in Taurus is that its placement, though uncomfortable, is a way to release the tension of this sun in Leo and the moon in Aquarius, that opposition that happens at the full moon. So if you're feeling the energy or the tension really impact you, then go into a grounding space, get in tune with nature, really look for ways to support your natural instincts and energy over getting caught up in your mind or overwhelmed by your feelings. Now, this Uranus in Taurus also creates an interesting aspect called a small grand trine. This Uranus in Taurus is also connected to a small grand trine. We see that the trine is happening between Uranus in Taurus and Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. So that natural flow of energy for helping us propel forward into change, not want to stay in the old ruts, but to actually do change, is apexed with Neptune retrograde in Pisces. So again, the theme of spiritual healing, doing the deep spiritual work that is necessary for growth, things especially leaning into forgiveness and release and healing and wholeness. That spiritual work is also very important to be able to transform out of old patterns and energies. Now, with Uranus being the ruler of Aquarius, it is also especially important to lean into and help support this emotional, mental transformation that is happening through the grounding experiences of Uranus. One of the other things, just to highlight something coming down the pipeline, is Neptune and the North Node getting closer and closer to each other. The lessons of the North Node in Aries of independence and learning to be confident and taking risks for what you want to create in your life will be supported as you do this Neptune and Pisces work of self-healing and transformation. So as they get closer to each other, which will happen in February of 2026, where they will become conjunct, this energy will only intensify. So the more the spiritual work that you're doing, the more you're going to be able to learn those lessons and create a new future for your own personal growth. This last aspect I want to highlight is called a yod, and this is a sextile between Pluto and Neptune, which is great. This is an easier aspect, an aspect of opportunity between these two planets, but a tension is created with the sun's placement at this full moon that naturally challenges this dynamic. It's like our identity doesn't quite know what to make of the transformation that's happening with Pluto retrograde, as well as the spiritual work that we're doing. To help ease the tension of a yod, you have to look at the middle point of this sextile, which would be almost exactly where the moon is in Aquarius. So again, bringing highlight to a moon in Aquarius and the lessons that we need to learn here. Now, it's sometimes uncomfortable for a water planet to be in an air sign, where air sign wants to be more in our head and the moon wants to be more into our feelings. If you have challenges around feeling comfortable or belonging, or maybe even feeling lonely or like a loner, where you just feel out of place in groups or dynamics and you never quite feel comfortable with yourself, this is a point that can really be poignant for your healing if you lean into and heal this part of yourself. Healing this, addressing this, feeling this has a potential to create a ripple effect through all the other signs and energies that we talked about. The moon likes to be caught up in the past. So if you have stories that make you feel, or where you tell yourself you don't belong, then this is a moment to clear that. But it can also be a moment where you can express a little bit more courage in claiming that it is okay to be you It's okay to feel those feelings and give you courage to show up more vulnerably in areas of your life that need a little bit more heart and a little bit more feeling. So the tool that I recommend using to support you through this full moon is this blend called HD Clear. It's made of black cumin seed, hoe wood, tea tree, litsea, eucalyptus, and geranium. It is the oil of accepting imperfections. And sometimes that process of accepting the imperfections of life and even of ourselves that make us vulnerable or feel self-conscious around other people, bringing in a massive amount of self-compassion and love for who you are as a unique person with many unique gifts and talents can help move this energy in a positive direction. So there's definitely these themes of trusting your inner voice, creating wholeness and healing within our spirit, mind, and body, improving on our parental safety bonds, as well as being able to address any kind of underlying anger and expanding our spiritual vision. So if this feels like something that you would benefit from during this full moon or after this full moon, you can check the description for a link to this essential oil blend. I hope that you can take full advantage of this full moon to really examine the transformation that is happening for you. The awareness is always the most important part, choosing to see what's being reflected back to you in your life, as well as what's showing up for you in your emotions and your feelings, and being able to sit with the reality of those with a level of compassion and objectivity so that you can choose a different way. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you're experiencing during this full moon, and I wish you the best.